Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Super Awesome Show, where we bring on super awesome guests who have super awesome things to say and are up to super awesome stuff. Today, we're here with our good friend Safa, sex and intimacy coach, and we're going to talk about something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. We're going to talk about sex.
Yeah.
So, without any further ado,
We're-
welcome to the Super Awesome Show.
Woo! We are excited.
Yeah.
Are you excited? We're going to talk about very exciting things. So stay
Yes.
tuned. Pop in comments if you want to comment, if you want to share stuff, if you want to react, please do that. And
Yeah.
Safa, welcome to be our guest, our super awesome guest. And
Hello.
I want to acknowledge Safa to be with us. It takes a shitload of courage to be there with us, to talk about stuff we're going to talk about, to share stories we're going to share about, live, unedited, raw, real, vulnerable. It takes really a lot of courage, so I want to appreciate and acknowledge you and all the work that you've been doing internally, externally, in the world. I've been blessed to experience the space that you create with people when you talk about very intimate stuff and very close to their most private parts of themselves and the stories about that and how amazing it is. And actually, I cannot appreciate and acknowledge you enough. I'm really hyped to have you as our guest, and welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm very honored to be here, and I love it. I love how you are creating this raw, unfiltered, unscripted. That's the name of my show, like Safa Experience Show, unfiltered, unscripted. So I'm in the very right place with you guys, and I'm very excited to be here. You can probably see it on my face. It's quite red. And also, I also want to acknowledge that I have some nervousness going on.
Oh,
Being
wow.
here, being live, and there's thoughts going on in the background. Wow, what are we gonna talk about? What if I don't say the right thing? What are people are gonna think about? And I just want to acknowledge that all this is going on. And there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of appreciation for what you're creating and what you're doing, bringing super awesome people here to your show. And let's rock and roll. I'm ready.
Yeah,
Let's
and
do it.
don't
Let's do
ever
it.
worry. Don't ever worry about saying the right thing, because everything you say is the right thing. There is no wrong thing that's said, and it's fun to just have the conversation. So I gotta ask though. This is something I gotta ask, because we've known each other for a little while now. And what led you to this path now of sex and intimacy?
There is a short answer and there is a long answer.
Oh,
The
we got an
long
hour
answer-
scheduled, so
Yeah, perfect. It just reminds me of what Ankush Jain is sharing a lot of times, that how he prepares for a meeting is that he doesn't prepare at all, and on the flip side of it, he has been preparing for it his whole life. So that's kind of the same for me. It happened in a second, and it has been happening for my whole life to be here and to do what I'm doing. Again, we can go through the whole story of my life and my relationship with sex, sexuality, intimacy, and all that. And we can also start from the very end, that it was actually a conversation that happened. Well, I guess Alexander was there. You were not there, Tony, when we had this conversation around sex in the last weekend of AJC school. And I was starting to write a book about sex and a new approach to sex. And there was this burning desire in me to share it with people in the AJC school during that weekend. And I was not able to find the moment to just to just say, hey guys, this is what I'm up to, this is what I'm creating, this is what I'm writing. So when the conversation started, I could just share that, hey, this is what I'm doing, I'm writing a book about this. And it just led to creating a space for people, for our colleagues, to get together to talk about sex. And I suddenly realized that, oh, this is actually what I'm supposed to do. This is kind of my calling. This is what I have been preparing for my whole life. And I was kind of holding it back. So it was basically just letting everything come out and be out in the open. And since then, which is not very long ago, it's maybe just 2 months, so many things are happening. So many invitations are coming. So many partnerships are being created. And everything is just moving so effortlessly and so fluently, like this conversation that we are having here. And that's how it happened and how I ended up being here in this moment. If there's any more details that I can share, I'll be very happy to share.
Yeah. Writing a book, this is also one of the most courageous things to do. Aside of going live with the guys and talking about stuff, people would hesitate to, have a conversation even privately, let alone go live, and then it's there forever. And no pressure, by the way, no pressure.
I know.
So Safa, what are you hesitant to share about your story? But if they hear it, they will be like, wow, let's blow their minds.
Ooh, that's a very tricky question. I love that. You're just going right there.
Yeah, let's go.
I know. Because, a part of my story that it might not feel easy to share. And I can imagine for so many people, it's like this, because I can say, because I have experienced it myself, I have had conversation with people talking about it. Like all the stories that they have been carrying around about sex, all the feelings, and mostly the feelings of shame and guilt, about the thoughts they had in relationship to sex, things that happened to them or they caused happen to other people. Those are the things that are very vulnerable and sensitive to talk about. Saying that, I was abused when I was a child, or was abused with people in my relatives, in my family. So these are the conversations that are not easy for people to just start and be in. And those are parts of my experiences. Those are the ones that I can go into and talk about. And I'm saying all this to say that those are not the ones that I'm hesitant to share. For me, what I'm hesitant to share is actually all the exciting stories that I have around sex, all the adventures that I have had in my life, which makes it, that I don't know why, but those are the parts that I'm hiding more than the ones that are about, like this is what happened to me. These are the feelings that I used to have. And I'm really, really excited when you ask that question, what is it that you're hesitant to talk about? I noticed that, it's these part of the story, the exciting ones, the adventurous ones. And the reason I'm hesitant about them is that, I don't know, maybe those are not very openly and generically accepted with the traditional ideas that we have around sex and intimacy and relationships. So I guess that's the reason. And like now that I'm here in this space, I would love to talk about them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And how the way you share about the stuff, even the stuff that's least or less scary to talk about, or where you're less hesitant to talk about, even those, I think most people, I guess 99% would keep for themselves.
Mhm.
And I want to acknowledge you for your power, for your being, for super awesomeness. And I truly mean every single word. So openly sharing, and what I hear also in your words, and correct me if I'm wrong, or Ed, I see that those experiences are not breaking you, or not allowing them to break you internally, and not defining you as well, who you are and who you want to be. And I
Yeah,
just
that's
clearly
true.
see so much power in how you share this. I
That's
truly
true.
admire all that. I wanted to
Thanks so
hear that.
much. Thanks so much. And there is one line in my document, in my declarations, that says, I am that I walk my talk, baby. If I can do it, you can do it too.
Yes.
And that's
Mm,
what I'm talking about is not theory, is not what I have read in the books or listened on the podcast or heard from my teachers or coaches or mentors. What I'm talking about is from all that plus the personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying it because I am really, truly just a normal human being. And there is nothing, of course, this is super awesome show. I'm super awesome, but there is nothing exceptional about me. I'm a human
mm,
being like every other human being on
yeah,
earth.
yeah.
And if I can do something, definitely everyone else can do it because I don't have any
That's beautiful.
special superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have been through those experiences and I'm able to rewrite my story, able to, get past them, acknowledge them and get past them and create my life the way that I want to do it, everybody else can do that. And that's
Mm,
the essence of the work that I'm doing.
Okay.
Like it's
yeah, this
possible.
is
It
so
is
beautiful. This is
possible.
so beautiful. Yeah, and I want to mention Terry's comment because there's gold. Safa, you are an amazing catalyst for change. So good to see all three of you together. And now it's just such a nice comment. Thank you, Terry. I invite
Thank
others to
you.
also type in if you're watching. Share the video later with others because I'm sure this conversation, already how it is unfolding this 12 minutes in, it is serving people who are maybe hesitant to talk about stuff, and they would benefit from opening up with people who can support, with people in a safe space at least. And you provide such a safe space, as far as I know, and we can go there as well. First and foremost, Safa, but is there more you want to share about yourself? I know that you're coming from a very traditional background where this is not only taboo, it feels like this is a huge taboo.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell more about this or something else? I'm just inviting
I
you.
can just, yeah, for people who don't know me and maybe wondering why this person is, why is they're here and what are they talking about. I'm originally from Iran, and if you know anything about Iran or not, it's an Islamic country, so it's a very religious country with strict religious rules. And it's not only about the rules, it's also about the family that I came from. Again, very traditional religious family with very strong values, I would say. And again, I am here because of how my parents brought me up, because of whatever that I have got from them and their values and the way that they are showing up the world in the world. When we talk about integrity, when we talk about commitment, when we talk about love, these are all the values that I have got from my parents, and I didn't realize. To me, there was a time, but most of my life, they sounded like restrictions, the things that are limiting me. And now that they are truly my consciously created values and the way that I'm creating myself, I notice that, oh, this is like my parents all the time in their whole life. Like they have been like this. They have been in integrity. They have been committed people. They have been, you know, very, very caring people, very loving people. So I really want to acknowledge that whatever I have right now, whoever I am, is because of the people that my parents are, the super awesome human beings that they are. And I can also see that, you know, for any reason that, I mean, it was part of the culture, it was part of the country we were living in. And the more I talk to people, the more I realize that it's not even only about my family, my culture, my country. It's actually quite global. It's quite worthwhile what I have experienced, more or less in different places with different families and cultures. So yes, we never talked about sex. Sex was non-existent in a way. I could sometimes overhear people talking about it when they didn't know I was listening. I was hearing about it a lot at school with my classmates. We were talking about it, and I knew that it's something that should be hidden. You know, it's something we don't talk about it openly in public in front of other people. It should be hidden, and that's part of my story that I'm writing in my book. That it also made me not talk about anything related to sexuality or my body or anything around it. For example, I used to experience a lot of sexual abuse even in public places, like on the bus, but I would have never talked about it because
Oh
it's
my
like,
God.
oh, this topic is hidden. We should hide it. We should never talk about it. And I was imagining that this is everybody's experience. Like, this is normal. This is life. This is what everybody's going through, and not talking about it. It really took me decades to realize that, oh no, that is not the natural way that is. That's not the normal life. That's not how everyone's experiencing it. So that's the very background that I'm coming from. And then I moved to the Netherlands, and there was a lot going on in redefining myself and finding freedom and going through all these experiences. One of the ways that I wanted to manifest my freedom was by having sex. Having sex with as many people as possible, so that I can just feel, oh, I'm free. I can do it. I don't have to. Nobody is asking me about it. I don't have to be responsive to anyone about it. I can just do whatever I want because I'm free. And that was like another part of the experience, just going through all these experiences without them meaning anything. I mean, without them being anything meaningful or even fun. It was just, okay, I'm free. I should do that. That's it. So that was another part of the experience. And then moving to years of therapy and talking about it with my therapists, and honestly not really getting much out of it to connect the dots. And again, honestly, I don't know what shifted or when it shifted, that sex became something more like, okay, it's fun. It's enjoyable. I can actually enjoy it. I can actually desire it. To it moving towards, oh wow, this is exciting. This is fun. This is like a game that I can play. It's adventurous. It's something that I can just enter into this world and not know what's going to happen. And that's where actually the title of my book is coming from, the unfiltered, unscripted, because there is no script, there is no agenda. It's just moving into the unknown and letting things happen and unfold and just going with it.
Nice.
I don't know if I was still answering your question or I derailed somewhere
You
else.
are. And may I jump in just really quickly because I want to do something. Is it okay, Safa?
Yeah, I'm just checking my.
I wanna,
Please.
yeah, I wanna create the listening by people who are listening and watching. Because you said something, I'm aware some people might judge others if others would share something like this. And I guarantee you, if you're judging, A, this is okay, and B, you will not hear a word Safa is sharing, or either of us, because you will be in your thoughts and in judgment. So if you're experiencing judgment, I invite you now or at any point in this conversation, I invite you to notice it and put this aside. You can always come back later to it when the show is over, right? But if you really want to listen, notice your judgments and come back. And Safa, thank you so much for sharing, and please go ahead. And sorry for interrupting.
Well, and real quick, I thank you for that, Alexander. Thank you for opening that up with everybody who's watching or will watch later. And I like to, when I use that word, I like to add the word. What you're talking about is negative judgment, because judgment in itself doesn't have to be negative. I judge you both as awesome people, so there's still a judgment. So to piggyback on Alexander, he's talking about any negative judgment you have. Let's throw that out the window, or you're going to miss the gold that's happening right now in front of you. So,
thank you both for creating the listening, and I also want to add that I'm standing here and openly talking about my experience because I want to give everybody else the permission to do that. Not necessarily standing and talking about it publicly, but at least to notice it for themselves, or to talk with someone that they trust, that they can. Give me a second. I switch off the alarm and come back.
Yeah, that's cool. I was asking in the chat, in the private chat,
I was about to walk out my door.
Fire alarm.
I was about to walk out the door and see
if it's
see
fire alarm, we
here.
gotta take a break here for.
Well,
but I hope it's not just an alarm.
I was like, I kept looking at my door, like, is my son out there with the noise?
Yeah, I don't think you hear it.
Nothing is burning. All good.
Yeah, no. I was just cooking, and I put the timer on because I knew I would be in the conversation, so I wanted the stove to switch off. So, yeah. Anyways, I was saying that I'm talking so openly about it because I want to give permission to everyone else to do that, to be able to talk about things that might feel uncomfortable, might feel shameful. Or worrisome or scary, that like what you're sharing, that people might judge me for what I'm sharing, and I used to live like this for so many years that I don't talk because people might judge me. And now it's like every judgment is welcome. Every judgment is actually something to look into and see, oh, what's happening here that I'm judging someone so harshly, so negatively, like Tony said. And I love judgments. If you're talking to me anytime, please feel free to bring your judgments, and then we look at them together, because that's where the gold is. This is what I heard from Trevor Timbeck the other day. He was coaching me, and he said, beneath any fear is love. Also beneath every judgment is love, is something very precious, and I love that. I love to do that exploration with people, to go beyond their judgments and see what is there. So, and I'm also saying it to add to it that I don't judge you. I don't see your judgments as judgments, so I don't judge you. I just see the love in you, and I just radiate the love to you. That's how I live, and that's how I do my work.
That's beautiful. This is beautiful. Sometimes I have a feeling people judge others they don't allow themselves to do. So there's like a limit. people put on themselves, and then others don't have the limit, and they start judging. Oh, but you're not allowed to do that because I'm not allowing this to do for myself to do, right? So there is ultimately self-judgment. There was a comment right there. My worst judgment is against myself, by Hugh. Thank you, Hugh. And wow, what a beautiful way to look at them, to not be like upset and not be pissed off and don't be out. Who are you? Like, go away. You work with them and you say there's gold. This is so beautiful, Safa. Thank you.
Definitely, you're welcome.
So when it comes to sex and intimacy and working with other people, what are some of the things that you explore, like with some of your clients that you're working with? How do you help them get what's necessary for themselves for when it comes to sex and intimacy?
There are two directions I can go from here, and I want to go to the second one first. I want to say why I see it as important to even work on sex and intimacy, to even talk about it, to hire a coach for it. Because, again, what I have realized in my own experience and in the lives of people that I'm working with, not necessarily on this topic, but I've been working in general, or my friends, is that sex and intimacy is one of the topics that we bring to the very lowest level on the list of priorities, or we just sweep it under the rug, like, well, that's not important. Like, I can live without that. I can get to that later. Let me just get that promotion at work first. Let me change my car first. Let me get to the kids' education first. Let me plan that vacation for next summer first. And the sex and intimacy is going lower and lower on the list. And that someday that we are going to get to it is never coming.
Mm-mm.
And again, we probably heard this expression that how you do anything is how you do everything. So if this is the aspect that you're ignoring, there are definitely other important stuff that you're ignoring, because you're just not whole when you're not paying attention to the whole.
Mm-hmm.
And especially that's part of the work that I'm doing with leaders, because again, for what I see in them is really this top priorities and this very important, time sensitive, crucial stuff that they have to get to. And again, sex is something like, okay, no, that doesn't matter. That doesn't even exist.
Yeah, like this dirty stuff, it belongs under the carpet. Let's not talk about it. Let's ignore. And desires, desires.
Yeah.
Who cares about my desires? Like I gotta go to work. I gotta earn money. I gotta do this, pay my taxes, and so on. But desires, as if there's something wrong with the desire. And from how you shared about your story of shifting from it's a taboo, then allowing yourself to have it, to more exploring the desire, being playful with it, and discovering the joy. This is such an incredible story, or at least storyline I hear, or a red thread I hear.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share more about it? What helped you, like, shift your relationship with sex and sexuality and desire and joy and pleasure and the fleshy stuff? Call it whatever. What helped you shift that?
When I answer your question, I'm also answering the other part of Tony's question. So they're very related to each other. In one word, stories.
Mm-hmm.
All the stories that we unconsciously are carrying about ourselves in general, and also about sex specifically. All the stories that we have picked up somewhere, they're not even our stories, we just picked it up somewhere, like all the the very famous story of I'm not enough, to anything sex related, that sex is shameful, sex is dirty, sex is an obligation, sex is like what is
You gotta
the expression
perform.
for it?
You gotta do this
You
to
got
perform and
exactly, you
all
got
the
to
stuff.
perform. Like it's my manhood is linked to sex. It like the number of people that I'm having sex with is important. To sex is related to lust, and that if I want to have sex, I'm not a good person. I'm a bad person if I have this desire. So all these stories and many other that might not have been my stories, so I don't know, but it could be other people's stories that they have been living with. So just bringing those stories into the light and looking at them and being aware of them, and also choosing, do I want to keep this story and run with it, or let it run me for the rest of my life? Do I want to let it go? Just open the window. And I love this move, opening the window, because I really did that once. This is like a bracket I'm opening here. 2 years ago, I was in a community residency, and I was living with like 15 other people in a beautiful mansion in France. We're living for a month together as a community. And one morning, I realized that I'm carrying so much shame with me, just in general. Like there's so many things being with these people that makes me feel ashamed of myself. And I had that image that shame is like an invisible thin shirt that I'm wearing, and I'm hiding in it. And in a moment, I decided to just, take this shirt off, open the window, literally open the window, and just throw it out of the window. And it was just gone. So this is why I really like this move, opening the window and throwing something out. We can do it with our stories, like the stories that are not serving, the stories that we don't have to carry with us forever. Just throw them away.
Yeah.
And there's a blank open book that we can write any story we want.
Oh yeah.
We are the authors. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what happened, Alexander, to your question, and Tony, to your question, how I'm working with my clients. So this is the first part, to just notice those stories and, choose what to do with them, and then start writing new stories.
Taking authority, taking leadership, taking ownership. That's what I hear. And executing the choice, executing the freedom of choice, and choosing what are the stories that are serving me or others in my life, and what are the stories that are rather limiting instead, or not serving, not useful.
Right.
Yeah.
And not even just the stories. One thing that I like that you're talking about here is the fact that it's important to talk about it. It's important to talk about intimacy and sex. And you talked about how you were talking with Trevor and having some conversation around that. And that's my first coach I hired in 2019, Steve Krivda. If you're watching, shout out, brother. He asked me one time about that. We were maybe 6 months into our first program, and he point blank asked me, how often are you and your wife being intimate? And at the time I was like, dude, what are you asking? What is this? Where's this coming from? And come to find out, that was making a big difference. It was making a huge difference. And back then, when he first asked me about it, it was definitely less frequent than it is now. And so, but because I was doing exactly what you're talking about, I was saying, oh, let me get that promotion, or let me grow this business, or let me work on the yard, or let me do, fix the truck, or whatever it was. I put it low on the list. And so it's huge. I love that you're talking about that, because most people do. They put it really far down on their list. And when you raise that on your list, it makes a huge difference in your relationships, and a huge difference in the way you feel about yourself and your mindset and the love you share. So I thank you for sharing that. It just brought me back to that first conversation I had with my first coach about intimacy and about sex. And it was how awkward it was at first. And then it became easy to talk about. And then my wife and I opened up a lot more about it. And it's been much easier to talk about. So I was excited when you were coming on today to talk about sex and intimacy, because I'm like, yeah, let's go. Because it's something that my wife and I have been able to speak more openly now in the last 5 of our 22 years than we did for the first 17. It's crazy how that looks,
But what changed after you opened up? I mean, this is always so good to open up and have an honest conversation or a series of them and always speak as open as possible. But are you willing to share what's shifted? At least a couple of things, don't you?
Yeah, it's just neither one of us were on the same page as far as what we thought about it. We were so busy living in judgment or negative thoughts that when we actually communicated and opened up about what she likes, what I like, what we were seeing together, it opened up, to use your now, it opened up windows, it opened up doors. It became more pleasurable and it became more active and more frequent, because now we understood what each other's actual desires revolving around intimacy were. When even being together as long as we were, we never really talked about it. I mean, yeah, we were intimate, we had sex and stuff, but never really talked about what each other wanted out of it, or what it looked like for each of us to get what we wanted out of that situation. And so once we opened up about that, man, it's just so much better. And our relationship has been that much better because of it. And we've had some harder times than we did in the first 17 years of our lives, but we got through them much easier because just how much stronger our relationship is. And part of that strength is revolving around the intimacy.
Wow. So your relationship and intimacy and sex benefited, all of that benefited through opening up and having honest conversations. Wow. Yeah. That's huge. Also to share from my perspective, I used to, the place I'm coming from, used to see sex as one of the arenas of ego, you're trying to prove something, right? I think other arenas are like the career, how much money you make, and so on and so on and so on. And sex is like being one of them. And that used to be like one of the ways to close the void, the internal void, that there is something inside and you're trying to close it with something outside. And guess what? It never works. And I'm so happy and so blessed to be able to do deep internal work, deep inner work, also with people who support me. Shout out to every single one of them, everybody, including my wonderful wife. We are together for almost 20 years. I mean, this is a bit of a different story if you have, let's say, every couple of years a new relationship. And I'm not judging either. Either is, an experience, equally important and can be equally beautiful. And having a partner who, is able to support you and support your inner growth and support you no matter what, because we all have, ups and downs in life. Also in the sexual life, right? And those stuff, also people are usually hesitant to talk about, like when you're performing, you're not performing, when something is happening, something is not happening. You want to have kids, you can't have kids for a while. Like, that was the case for me. Just having the safe space, I guess, that it can make all the difference. It can really make all the difference. So I want to invite as many people as possible to speak with their partners, to speak with somebody like Safa, or if they have a trusted person in their life, to have a conversation with that trusted person in their life. If you don't have such a person, please create one. It can all be created. Yeah, and this ego and sex, I think for many men this is connected. But what do you think is about what do you think about female experience or other experiences? What is your view on this?
What I have heard, because I have been in sharing circles with women and with men, and you're the best to talk about the men's experiences. You have experienced it firsthand. About the women or people with female body, what I have heard, the common themes that or common stories that people have been carrying around is, again, a lot about sex being something shameful, something that you need to hide, something even disgusting, dirty, something, especially in a relationship, in a long-term relationship, in a marriage, like a burden, like an obligation, something that they have to do for another person. There's a lot, this common theme of, I need to give pleasure to the other person, to whether it's my partner, or even I remember when I was a kid, and again, like on the bus, when I was being sexually harassed, I was thinking that, oh, like I'm here to give pleasure to someone else, to let someone else use me. I don't know why. But anyways, that is still what is going on for many people with female body, that even now when we're speaking about it, it's like, oh, but my partner didn't have an orgasm, so it was not a good sex. It's not about if I had orgasm or not, but my partner didn't. Like, I'm here to help my partner enjoy and have an orgasm. And that's like really
if the partner is not having an orgasm, it's like, I failed. Oh shit.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And again, going through these conversations, having the insights, having the openings, the healing that is happening is resulting in a lot of freedom, liberation. This is how women experience it, that, oh wow, there is a liberation, there is freedom, there is this creative life energy that is moving through me. Maybe you can talk about that experience from men's perspective. If you're dropping those stories, if you're rewriting those stories and creating your sexual relationship differently and looking at your sexual energy differently, what is your experience? Like, what is because for women it's a lot about creativity and life force and freedom. How is it for men?
Right.
How have you experienced it?
Oh, well, for me personally, it is about being a little more creative and a little more exciting, experimental from time to time. It's about, for me, I enjoy, and this is one thing we do have in common, is changing it up. It's not the same every time. Change positions, change situations, change the way it's happening, and it keeps it exciting for us. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
yeah, that's your experience.
I'm happy.
Exactly.
I'm
Yes,
happy
please.
to continue.
Yeah.
I think I'm not at freedom to share completely everything from my wife. I had a
right. That's why I'm being pretty discreet.
Very interesting conversation with my wife. Like, what do you want me to share or not to share in this conversation? So I have a very short list of instructions to share stuff and not to share stuff. So I have to be really careful. We're on live right now.
Right.
For me, how I see it, well, I think in my past I used to mix up together, and I think both are not necessarily the same. I mean, for me, not necessarily the same, because you can feel very, very intimate with someone without having sex. You can have the sense of very strong human connection, even just a conversation or even being quiet, looking each other into the eyes. There can or cannot be something sexual about it, right? It's not a must. And I used to mix them up, and I think society, and I'm including me, especially the earlier me in the past, we are losing the skills to create intimacy. We are losing the skills where we are just sharing the space with another person, co-creating the space in a beautiful way. And like these ideas of not being, or stories about not being enough, and judgment, self-judgment, negative judgments, and ideas that are like we're constantly looking on, oh, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with the other person. And this is not helping us to create this genuine connection, this really intimate connection with somebody, which also affects sexual life, which also affects loneliness. Some people say we are having an epidemic of loneliness. I think it was Steve Chandler Shout out to him. We have an epidemic of mental well-being things going on. The statistics are going through the roof, and we're experiencing other things like addictions, obesity, and other things, which is, I think, in my mind at least, I don't know if it's true, but my hypothesis is it is all connected to our ability to create intimacy and true connection. And if this connection is there, especially with my significant other, and I am able to have sex with this person as well, this is just a different something shifts. It's like a small death, I think. French people will understand especially this, right? They have a term. It's like your ego is dying. It's like you're feeling one with the person, and it can be during sex, and it can be outside, right? It can be nothing sexual about it, but you just feel complete oneness with someone. I think we are wired as humans, and including me as well, to create that, to have that. We want that, and we crave that, and we lose the skills to be able to create that. And this is I don't think this is the direction we want to go. And we see all the fruits from this direction right now. And this is so good that people are starting talking about it more openly now again, and starting to look at stories, and starting to publish books, and starting to create spaces where people can discover that and discover the beautiful ways of connection and sexuality, and discovering, oh, this is not a dirty thing. This is not like I don't have to be quiet about it. I don't have to judge it. I don't have to be like, oh, this is dirty, and my desires are like less priority. I gotta serve, I gotta earn money, or I gotta do this, or take care of kids, or whatever the priorities are, or run the business for that matter. I think this is just a beautiful shift, and I'm very humbled and privileged to be part of the shift, and to have you in this conversation with us.
Yeah. So Hugh asked us a question here, and I'm curious to get your take on this one.
Yeah, definitely.
He said, "Is there a difference between having sex and making love with somebody?"
Is there a difference between having sex or making love? Again, like nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. So yes, that's something that everybody defines for themselves. And again, in our conversations, we get a lot back into when we're talking about sex, we're not talking about the act of intercourse necessarily. Sex could be a lot more diverse. So again, with this definition, making love could be the same as sex. It really depends on how you define it for yourself. Again, I heard this sentence that Shazia told me. I guess she heard it from Ankush, that sex starts when the sex ends. Again, your whole experience of life could be part of your experience of sex. Again, for me, I don't really have any line. Okay, this is it. This is where sex is starting. Or this is sex, this is making love.
Right.
Because we are sexual beings, and we have this sexual energy. In the next episode of Safa Experience Show, I'm talking to, I have recorded it, it's not out yet, talking to Sophie Bryan, and what we're talking about is this. I forgot what I wanted to say. What are we talking about?
But there's the next episode coming. It's gonna be interesting.
So what did I want to say?
That's what happens, but because we scripted this just to have a couple of. That's all scripted.
Yeah,
this is exactly as planned.
This is unscripted. I don't know. I forgot. Anyways, I can tell you about the nothing has meaning until you get it. Thank you so much, Tom. I love you. So Yeah, what I wanted to say, forget that story because I forgot what it was.
Forgotten.
Throw it out of the window. Let's throw it out of the window, right? As this shirt or whatever.
Yeah, I remember. Come on, I remember. Okay, we were talking about the sexual energy at work, and that that this zing that we feel with people at work, that it could happen. We just feel attracted to someone at work, and sometimes, well, it's we even start dating them and marrying them and having kids with them. And sometimes we each have our own families, and this is like, oh no, this is not good. It might end up with I don't know, like a drunk kiss at the Christmas party in the office, or like a full-on sexual experience that we feel a lot of shame and guilt afterwards about it, and oh my God, what do I do now? What did I do? And another way of looking at it is that it's that sexual energy that we can use it to create something. Like, it doesn't mean that we get a hotel room and sleep together. We could use that energy, that procreative energy, to do something with it, to start a new project, or anything that is creative and is not necessarily being physically intimate together.
Wow.
So
So
again,
sex and
even
creativity are connected. This is what I'm hearing.
yes.
Oh,
And again,
wow.
like in a partnership, when I send a text to my partner, it is part of our sexual experience. When I send a picture of me sitting at the laptop working, it could be part of our sexual story and experience. If I go out for a walk, it could be part of our sexual story and experience. So again, it's not necessarily that act that is traditionally known as sex, that we see it as sex. It could be even me not having a partner and still having sexual experiences. Or could be with many different people that we create sexual experiences. So again, for me, there is no line. It could be just something that is moving and flowing during my whole experience of life.
Nice. Yeah, that's it's interesting to use the workplace example too, because you do have a lot of people that feel shame for even thinking that way. Just for being attracted to somebody at work, they feel that that's wrong. Oh, I work with this person. I can't feel that way for this person. And so you use the example of how somebody might start dating and get married and have kids, and then, or maybe there's somebody who's in a relationship, but then there's also back to the taboo side of things and the negative judgments. So many of us are taught that it's wrong for you to even have those feelings with somebody at work. It's wrong for you to even consider a relationship with somebody. Oh, you work with that person. What are you doing? It's interesting to hear you talk about that, because it's really, there is nothing wrong with it. I mean, really isn't.
Tony, are you sure? Are you sure?
I can't say I've had any personal experience there, but
no, well, you're alive. You gotta be ashamed that you're alive. Do you have any desires? Yeah. Shame on you, Tony. Right? Shame on you.
How dare I?
Bad boy. You will be punished.
It's fun. I got a comment on my post. Let me see if I can find it. It was very interesting. That it was from Dave Kibbe, our classmate and colleague, about his feelings at work. And he said, often if people sense if they withdraw, as we have lots of rules about what feelings we're supposed to have with which people. So based on the rule book of what feelings we can have for which people, then having feelings at work with our colleagues is not the right one. That's in the rule book, it's not right. Yeah, I love that comment.
Yeah, who wrote the rule book anyway?
Yeah, great question.
Don't get me started on that, Tony. If you want to go on the path of who said that, who wrote that, then I have a lot to talk about.
Well, I mean, it's just back to that. It's back to the programming that we've all been programmed our whole lives with, the way we've been raised, the way we've been taught, from our teachers, our parents, our, at church, at school, we're
Society,
programmed
yeah.
to think a certain way. That's why in my book, the very first chapter is called "Forget the Programming," because it's about throwing that out the window. I'm going to use that from now on, the window example, because it really is. It's when you can get through the garbage that we've been taught for our whole lives and start to live and be the person that we really were meant to be, and open up, have these conversations, even if they're difficult. I love one of Steve Chandler's in his book 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself. I love one of his topics. He talks about singing, and he talks about singing while you're driving. How many people, when you'll get your favorite song on the radio when you're driving, and you'll sing it out, and then you get to a stoplight, and then you see somebody next to you, and you stop singing. You're like, I don't want them to see me singing, even though they can't hear you. You're in your car. You have this thing about you that you've been programmed that's embarrassing. And so I always encourage people. I'm like, yeah, let's just sing, belt it out, whatever. And it's the same thing. It's basically saying, have the conversation, talk about the difficult things, do the things that are difficult. So yeah. Anyway, that was just my quick piece on that. And when you talk,
even something, sure.
I just wanted to say, again, I had this conversation with a friend who just asked me, why don't you let people be?
Yay.
Really? Yeah. Like, I don't have anything to do with people. Like, I really love people be just the way they are and live their lives if it's working for them. Like, if your life is working for you with anything that we're talking about here or not, it's perfect. Like, the way you're living your life is perfect. There is nothing wrong with it. If you have these stories, if you have these judgments, if you're not talking about it, if you are talking, it's all perfect. It's all fine. All we're speaking about here, all I'm speaking here, is that there are other possibilities to explore. That's it. Like, I'm not forcing anyone that you should talk about sex. You should talk to your partner. You should talk to me. You should go on social media and talk about it. No, you don't have to. No, it's not a should. It's just a possibility that can create a different life experience for you. And if you see that as interesting, exciting, you're curious about it, let's do it. If not, just live your life. Enjoy your life, and that's it.
Right. Wow.
And I have a question. If people are intrigued and they are, wow, Safa, what is she creating out there in the world? What is super awesome? How I can get hold of you? Like, what can you share about this if you want to share something?
Sure. Where should I start?
Yeah.
Seriously, like, I'm doing so many projects.
Well, what's one big thing you're creating that you want people to really know about, and then where can they find you?
Yeah. So what is very relevant to the conversation that we are having here is a group program that I'm starting together with my colleague Shazia Govinci in the beginning of April. And that's a group program for women right now. We're going to do a men's version later on. But for now, this is for women to go through this journey that we're speaking about here, to look at those stories and bring them to the light and choose what they want to do with it, and to bring the sexual part of themselves as an integrated part of their life and work, whatever personal, professional thing that they're doing. So that is the relevant project I have up to this conversation. And where people can find me is on Instagram, Safa Experience. If you can write that somewhere, that would be perfect, because it's a little not easy to spell, and on LinkedIn with the same ID, and also on my YouTube channel, Safa Experience Show, that I'm releasing this bi-weekly videos, conversations I'm having with people around sex, unfiltered,
Is that right?
That's awesome.
It's X at the end instead of CE. And no E at the beginning. That's why I'm saying it's a little not easy.
And that's why
so
we're
Safa X period X.
Good that you asked.
like that.
Yes, that's it.
All right. So Instagram, Safa X Experience, and also this is the same handle on LinkedIn. You said
On LinkedIn, yes.
Okay.
And for YouTube, there is Safa Experience Show at the end.
And what about your book? If they wanna grab it and
The book is still in the writing. I just created this perfect system after finishing the Power of Systems book for the second time. I created this system that I write it half an hour every morning, and it's moving.
oh,
It's not finished yet. So whenever it's finished, I'll definitely announce it.
I can't wait to read it. I absolutely can't wait to read it, and acknowledge you for being such a super awesome guest and sharing so powerfully about who you are, about your journey, about what you're up to. Thank you so much. We are so blessed to have you.
we really
Thank
are.
you
We really
so
are.
much
Thank
for
you.
creating this. This was fun, and the 1 hour passed so quickly.
I know. I can't believe we've
Wonderfully.
already been talking for over an hour. Thank you. Thank you, as usual, Alexander Safa. You've been an amazing, amazing guest. Thank you for everything you've shared today. Everyone out there, make sure you share this all over the place. Watch it again. Dig out the gold that you may have missed the first time from this great conversation. And as usual, we'll see you next time on the Super Awesome Show.
See you. Bye, bisexual super beings, super awesome beings.